Good morning and welcome to another round of Saturday with Stephanie. I am this morning contemplating my puzzles. So let's talk puzzles for a little bit, shall we? I am guessing, like me, a lot of you out there have been spending time during this quarantine, during this stay-at-home time, working on puzzles because it's kind of a simple way to pass the time. It's a good way to do things with family. Now, for me, if I'm going to do a puzzle, I know I'm doing it 100% on my own because here's a secret for all of you. Pastor Travis actually hates doing puzzles. He cannot stand them. So I'm pretty much on my own if I'm going to do a puzzle these days, but I wanted to share some of my favorites with you real quick and kind of talk to you a little bit about a metaphor I've been kind of contemplating when it comes to puzzles. So here we go. I got a whole stack here. So first of all, got a couple of these little boxes, and it seems like, oh, they must be small puzzles and probably for kids. But here's the cool thing about them. These are actually little wooden puzzles. You can see how thick the pieces are. I hope you can. And they actually smell really cool, because they are carved by essentially burning the wood to separate them. I don't exactly know the process, but both of these are a couple of my favorites. They're not tons of pieces, but because, as you can see, they're kind of weird shaped pieces, they're actually kind of tough. It'll take me a good few hours to put them together sometimes. I really enjoy them just as a time passing kind of thing, and so that's just kind of one of my things. This one is all Jane Austen book covers. Now, I am a reader. I love Jane Austen. It's kind of a thing for me. I was an English major in college, so of course I had to read pretty much all of her stuff. So I really enjoy this one. And here's the funny thing. Because it's a bunch of book covers, it's actually like doing a bunch of really small puzzles once I figure out which pieces go to which book cover. It separates it out really, really easily. And then this is the most recent one that I did because I am a huge fan of Van Gogh, probably my favorite artist. If you've been in my office, you'll see I have a couple of framed prints that I found hidden away someplace at church. They were in a pile, so I said, okay, then they're going to decorate my office since they belong to the church anyway. Starry Night is probably his most famous. This puzzle could have been a lot harder, but the back sides of the pieces actually have kind of a letter grid, and so I use that to separate out the pieces and do a bunch of basically 6 smaller puzzles is how I managed to divide it up. Now, I will say that this particular one was not a great quality puzzle. Some of the pieces were actually peeling, and that was kind of frustrating. So these days, though, it's a little complicated to actually find good puzzles online because everybody's ordering them. So if you're having trouble, know that you're not alone on that. This one, so this has a story behind it. I'm going to try and show you the whole thing. This particular puzzle, it's actually from a coloring page, a drawing that a child did. This is from MD Anderson Cancer Center down in Houston. One of the things they do as a fundraiser is they take art from their children patients there and turn it into puzzles and plates and decorative items for the home and Christmas ornaments, and they sell them different places, but where I happened to acquire this was at the Nutcracker Market. Now that's something that they do every year in November. It's this huge Christmas market down in Houston at one of the convention centers, and you have to pay to get in and then you get to shop, but the money paid to go into the shopping is actually a fundraiser for the Houston Ballet. So I never have felt bad about spending that money. We went just about every year when we lived close to Houston, and now I've gone down there once since moving up here to go with my mom and my sister because they live closer to Houston. So don't know if that'll be happening this year with all of the things happening, but we really don't know a lot about what's happening this year anyway. 2 more. Another Van Gogh. This one I have yet to successfully complete. there's a lot of yellow, and it's very hard. The couple of times that I've started it, we had other things that were happening. We were having people over for dinner, and as you can see, I'm sitting at our dining room table, which is also the puzzle table. These days, it is only the puzzle table. So this might actually be a good chance for me to restart this one and attempt to finish it in the next however long. It might take me weeks. And then finally, this one, it's actually a double-sided puzzle. It's of a Frank Lloyd Wright house called Falling Water. I think it's probably his most famous house. But the back side of it is actually the blueprints for the house, which is kind of cool. This one, I've only done the photo side. And when I did it, it was also really hard. As you can see, there's a ton of green because of all of the leaves and everything. I actually did this one when I was at home, well, obviously at home, but it was during a time when my parents were visiting, and both of them really enjoy puzzles. And if it hadn't been for their help, I don't know that I would have ever managed to finish this one. So here's the thing about all of this with these puzzles that I've found really interesting to think about this time that we're living in. Puzzles can be kind of a metaphor for life, can't they? Especially imagining that you don't have the box, you don't have the photo, you don't know what the end product looks like. You just have this jumble of pieces, and some of them look really similar, some of them look very different. The pictures may be confusing. When you look at a tiny little puzzle piece, sometimes the print on it doesn't really give you a clue as to what the final thing is going to be. Like, for example, from this Van Gogh one with the sunflowers, oranges and yellows and streaks, and if I only had all of these pieces in front of me, I would never be able to figure out, that's going to eventually look like this. It just does not make sense that it would actually come out to make some kind of cohesive thing. The pieces do interlock. They fit together. Because here's the thing, is God has created each of us to be unique individuals like these puzzle pieces. And along the way, we will connect to other people. For some, we will walk this path the whole time and we'll be interconnected. And for other people, they will move in and out of our lives. So kind of think the difference between family members that you're with your whole life, siblings or parents or your spouse or your children, as opposed to friendships that if you move away or things change with your relationship, those might not last. And right now, a lot of us are feeling very disconnected. It's really hard to stay connected. We have to use the internet, we have to use telephone, we have to use text. We can't get together in person. Or if we do, we're supposed to stay 6 feet apart. We're not supposed to have any physical contact. Even things as simple as this dining room table, which we love that it's so big and so accommodating and we can have a whole crowd of people around it. I think we've had as many as 12 people squeezed around this table. We can't really do that right now. And it's sad, especially for us. When we bought this house back, we moved in December. And when we bought the house, our whole plan and dream was to open it up to people and have people over for meals and fellowship and just hang out and have parties. And so far we've had one dinner to say farewell to a member who was moving back to California. Hi, Nick, if you're watching this. And we've had one party, which was hosting people to watch the Super Bowl. And it was only a couple of families because we were still getting adjusted to the house. You may have noticed on all these videos that we still haven't hung anything on the walls. It's been tough to decide where to do that. And I'm such a perfectionist that I don't want to mess things up. It's, you know, that whole thing of I want the puzzle pieces to fit exactly. I want it to look just right before I punch any holes in the walls. But back to that whole metaphor of this life we live being like a puzzle. Especially right now, things have changed dramatically, and it can feel a lot like we're putting together a puzzle looking at the backside of it, just at the bland cardboard, and And we just have to figure out how to fit the pieces together without even being able to see the picture on the other side. And we have to guess and hope that maybe this will come out in a way that works, that's beautiful. But here's the secret, is God is the one who is orchestrating our lives. He is the one who is in charge of all of it. He provides us with the blessings we need at just the right time. He provides us with everything we need for this life. Now, he doesn't promise us it's going to be easy. In fact, he promises that from time to time we are going to be so shaken, so pressed down, that we will have nothing more we can do but to turn to him. And for a lot of us, this time period right now feels a lot like that we have nowhere else to go but to turn to him. And that's not a bad thing. It reminds us that we are sinful, fallen creatures, and we are in desperate need of a Savior. So at this point, I just commend to you, as you're putting together those puzzles, as you're struggling with all of this, to remember that God has infinitely beautiful things in store for you. And at the end of your life, you'll see the puzzle totally completed. And it'll look beautiful. It'll be a beautiful picture that you could have never imagined. Because for all of us, I think our image of what our life is supposed to be sometimes looks very different than the direction it ends up going. And that's not a bad thing. But sometimes God has so much better things in store for us. Even as we grieve, even as we grieve the loss of what was. None of us really know what this is going to look like on the other side. Maybe this isn't going to be a nice, neat, rectangular puzzle. Those wooden puzzles that I showed you at the beginning, they aren't even in the shape of a rectangle when you're done. The one, I think, ends up actually in the shape of an owl. The other one, I think, if I recall, is a circle. So, for each of us, I think our puzzles may end up with funny looking jagged edges, but you know what? Sometimes those jagged edges can be really beautiful in the whole. Think about lace trimming on a piece of fabric. It's not an even straight line, but it's so beautiful. And I think that's what God is doing in each one of us. He's stretching us. He's growing us. He's moving us from the small 300-piece or 10-piece little puzzles that are super simple, and he's moving us into something challenging. And it's stretching us, and it's helping us to grow at this time. And that's okay. Each one of us will come out on the other side of this with more wisdom, with more ability to lean into what God has for us. And I hope so many of us will have more ability to trust that God is in control and he's going to take care of us. I know that's been true for me through all of this. It's been true for me with every circumstance that I've gone through that's been hard in life. And so I hope that you enjoy your puzzle time. I hope you have plenty to keep you busy. Go back and redo some that you've already done if you want to repeat a challenge. I've seen members that are doing not just puzzles, but putting together Legos, which are kind of a three-dimensional sort of puzzle if you're doing something specific. But whatever it is that you're spending your time doing, I pray that it's drawing you closer to your loved ones, that it is helping you to grow as a person. And I pray that you find time just to spend daily with Jesus as you're contemplating those puzzle pieces, as you're taking your time to pray. Try to combine them a little bit and see what comes of it. I thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you in worship tomorrow. Thanks.